From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Well, good evening and welcome into OpenLine. I'm Chuck Long, glad to be along with you for the next hour. We've got a very special show planned for you this evening. We are going to be talking about medical malpractice, and we get a lot of callers when we have this particular topic. We're going to be discussing this with attorney Clint Kelly from the Kelly firm. And Clint, it's great to have you. Great to see you again.
Good to see you again too, Chuck. Yeah.
Now, you know, a lot of times, and I know people, there are so many things involved when you talk about medical malpractice. So just for people just tuning in maybe for the first time, kind of explain medical malpractice to the viewers.
Yeah, it is a specialized area of the law in which there are basically three components. The first component is that a healthcare provider committed a medical mistake or some type of what we call departure from normal standards, provided substandard care. The second thing is that failure to comply with the standard of care caused an injury which would not otherwise have occurred. And then the third component is the damages, the harms to the patient, which can be catastrophic injuries or death, and those are the three things that we look for when evaluating a case.
And I know in terms of cases, a lot of people will contact a firm like yours with a number of, whether it's, you know, a surgical mistake, birth trauma, anesthetic error, prescription mix-up, hospital mistake. I mean, there's a number of reasons that people would contact you, but it's interesting to me, only a very few cases are set up so that you can go ahead and pursue those cases.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Chuck, probably 99% of the calls that we get from the public, whether it be referrals from other lawyers or calls directly from the street, are cases that we reject because the vast majority of these cases are ones in which there's simply bad outcomes. They're not necessarily the result of negligence, or if there was negligence involved, the patient was going to have the problem in any event, even when the doctor does the best that he or she can do. So it's a very, very small fraction of cases that we take, and we also have to keep in mind juries nowadays are very conservative. They're very demanding in the proof that a patient will provide at trial. So we have to be extremely careful in the cases that we take.
Well, and as always, as you're tuning in this evening, we're talking about medical malpractice, and we do want to hear from you. Maybe you have a case, or maybe there's something that you've been wondering about, something that occurred to you, something that occurred to a friend or a family member, and you would like some advice, you would like to get some knowledge. Well, that's what we're here for you tonight. And of course, the screen, on your screen, you can see the number right there on the bottom of your screen. It's 615-737-PLUS. That's 737-7587. So call in, get some advice, get some knowledge, gain some knowledge. Here talking with Clint Kelly. Now, you know, you were talking about the term, and I've heard that term, bad outcome. So now, again, what is, when they say bad outcome, kind of what does that encompass?
Give you an example. There are people who will have surgery, say surgery on abdominal surgery, and the doctor or the surgeon will nick an organ, which will cause perhaps some need for another surgery, or will cause a complication that's dealt with. Those can often occur even when the doctor's doing the best that he can to avoid an injury. Those are called bad outcomes. A situation that's a bad outcome but it's the product of negligence is where a patient goes into an emergency room with extreme chest pain, and the emergency room physician, rather than doing an EKG to try to determine whether it's the product of a heart attack, simply makes the decision that it's indigestion, gives the patient some Pepsi and sends them home, and the next day the patient dies of a massive heart attack. So that's principally the difference. Is in some cases, in fact in most cases, doctors do the best they can, and just simply you don't get better because there's no guarantee you're going to get better. The small minority of those cases, the cases we take, are where the injury was preventable if there had been good care.
Okay. All right. We do have a lot of people that call in for this show. We want to get right to the phones. Regina is on the line with us. Good evening, Regina. Do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
Well, I have a question, and thank you guys for coming out in this weather.
Absolutely.
My question is, actually, it's in reference to my sister. She had hip replacement surgery back in July, and she come out of the surgery okay as far as the hip, but she's suffering now from drop foot. Have you ever heard of such?
I've heard of drop foot, and I've evaluated a couple of cases that involve drop foot. Hip surgery leading to drop foot is something I have not heard about. It is a neurological problem. It can lead to, it's just what it says it is. It's someone whose foot is lost control, and hangs down, and it can impair your ability to walk, as you can imagine. But in typical cases that I have reviewed, it's been in relationship to some type of back surgery or spinal surgery. Hip replacement, I have not heard about that, and so the question in my mind becomes, is that really a product of the hip replacement surgery, or is there something else going on there that could be the cause of it? And I simply don't know, because I've never seen this presentation before. Okay, well, Regina, thank you so much for calling in this evening. And and I think what a lot of people encounter, there may be something that happens, something that goes wrong, and they're not sure what to do, where to go. What would be the first steps that they would take? Well, Regina did the first right thing, and that is pick up the phone and call. My consultations are free. Patient pays nothing unless we take the case and recover money for that patient. And Chuck, there's a 1-year statute of limitations in all of these cases, which means that you must give a pre-suit notice within the year that you discover the injury, or else your claim is barred. And I've had a number of cases that have been what I would consider to be good cases, and I couldn't take them because the patient did not call me and report the case quickly enough. And sometimes the patients are told or cajoled by their doctors saying, well, you'll get better, just give it a year, let's see how things go. And then when the year passes and the patient hasn't made a substantial recovery, that patient will call me and say, well, look, I did what the doctor told me to do. And unfortunately, our courts have ruled in the past that you cannot defend your failure to file a lawsuit simply because the doctor carried you along. You're supposed to know that there's a year in which to file the case. And a lot of people don't know that, so that's... Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Right. Very good point. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, we will also talk a little bit more about some of the things that you were mentioning then, but our line's very busy, so we want to go ahead and get to some of the callers. So Jay is on the line with us. Jay, good evening. And do you have a question or a comment this evening? Yes, I do. Thanks for taking my call this evening. Absolutely. My father, he's retired now, but 2 years before he retired, he fell and broke his leg real bad and messed his knee up. And his workers' comp doctor, they sent him, and he had to go to a surgeon and all this other stuff. But anyway, he had the surgery done. He went to he was having trouble. He couldn't hardly walk. He was having a rough time. And anyway, he went to another doctor to get another opinion, luckily, and this doctor went up against the other doctor in court. I was just wondering, how hard is it to get another doctor to go against another doctor? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks. All right, that's a good question. Jay, it is extremely hard to do that, particularly when you have a case where the doctors are from the same community. Almost always I have to get a physician from out of state, because these doctors, they see each other at professional organizations. Some of them may socialize together, and in some cases one doctor refers patients to another doctor, and you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. So in the situation you're recounting, it is extremely rare for that to happen, and the fact that it did tells me that there must have been a major disagreement between the doctors about the kind of care that was given. All right, so good to know. So thanks for the call, Jay. We're going to go right back to the phones right now. Pearl is on the line with us. We're glad that you are joining us, Pearl. And what is your question or your comment?
My daughter had a baby on last year, and they gave her a shot in her back. And she's been having serious problems with her back since then, and she's never had back problems before. She missed days from work, and some days she can't even pick up her daughter, or she's laying around all day. And they said the procedure would take about 5 minutes, but it took over 20-25 minutes. And she's been having severe back problem ever since she had her daughter last year. And she got the I don't know if it's a spinal tap or whatever, but they gave her a shot before she had a C-section.
Ask Pearl, how long ago did this happen? Yeah, so how long ago did it happen, Pearl? Was it an epidural?
I don't believe it was an epidural, because she had a C-section, and they was kind of giving her a shot in her back to numb her bottom half, and it was March of last year, and I know we're coming up on March, but she's been suffering with severe back pain ever since she had the shot in her back before the C-section.
Okay.
All right. Well, Pearl, I would invite you to call my office or whoever this lady is that's had this result, and I'll ask to speak to Pat, and I'll have Pat get a history and evaluate what's happened. It does sound like, Chuck, it was an epidural or some type of block, because that's, whenever you're given an injection in the spine related to a C-section, that's exactly what's happening. So the question is, was there a complication? Was the needle put in the right place? I have had cases where they will put the needle in, an anesthesiologist will, and instead of getting the needle directly into the area where the spinal cord is basically a sac, they'll reach in, they'll strike a nerve. And most cases the patient recovers, but now in this situation it's been 10 months, and if the patient's still having this kind of problems, and you want to look into it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Pearl, hang on the line, and you can get the number. We will give it to you, so just hang on, and we will get that number for Clint's firm, and you can give them a call, as he was asking you to do. We do have a lot of you calling in. We do need to take a short break. Hang on the line with us. We will take as many calls as we can possibly get to. During this hour, we are talking about medical malpractice, and we'll be back with more Open Line right after this.